Pro Wrestling Weekly presents Today in Wrestling History, June 2. On this date in 1997, WCW Monday Nitro aired live from Dayton, Ohio. In the main event, Ric Flair defeated Scott Hall by disqualification. On this date in 2003, WWE Monday Night Raw aired live from San Diego, California. In the main event, Randy Orton, Ric Flair, and Triple H defeated Kevin Nash, Shawn Michaels, and Hurricane Helms in a six-man tag team match. On this date in 2004, Jeff Jarrett defeated AJ Styles, Chris Harris, Raven, and Ron the Truth Killings in a King of the Mountain match to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship on TNA's weekly pay-per-view. On this date in 2008, WWE Monday Night Raw aired live from Bakersfield, California. In the main event, John Cena pinned Jeff Hardy. This has been Today in Wrestling History, June 2.
Hi, this is Jim Cornette, and you're listening to Pro Wrestling Weekly with Ferran Derry on 1490 WBCB.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Kind of like when the history spreads around all the different organizations. You know, a little WCW, a little WWE, a little TNA. You know, that way it's not too necessarily focused or centralized. And one that I, for time constraints, didn't want to throw on, well, couldn't throw on there. Plus, I wanted to say something, in person as opposed to pre-recorded. Today, also the 54th birthday of the one, the only Lex Luger, the total package. I got the chance to talk to him, back in September at Sinomania. I still have a little bit of cleanup to do, and as far as that interview, I didn't put it with the stuff from last week. I wanted to make it a little bit of a hodgepodge, some old stuff that you might have missed, as well as some new stuff that hadn't been heard before. In case you missed it from last week, I'll have that up on YouTube, as well as today's episode. I'll have that tonight while I'm here on the overnight at WBCB, doing some work while playing some music and the chart toppers and all the fun stuff there. All right, a little bit of news and notes. Of course, WWE Raw, well, its ratings continuing to slide, although with it being a holiday, I guess it's kind of understandable. Only a 2.72 between it being the holiday, the NBA playoffs going on, and of course the record-setting series premiere of the History Channel's Hatfields and McCoys. All of that leading to definitely a definitive sub-3 rating. The show had less than 4 million viewers for both hours, the first time that's happened since the start of Monday Night Football in the 2011-2012 NFL season. Meanwhile, that live edition of Impact from Thursday, the pushback of an hour, the ratings are down 12% compared to last week's rating, and 0.89 in the new time slot, down 17% compared to the yearly average. Only about a little less than 1.3 million viewers seeing the new Impact. The first time it was below that mark since Thanksgiving of 2010, and for non-holidays, the first time in nearly 2 years, going back to July 1st of 2010. And I know, to keep the positivity train rolling, okay, maybe not really, WWE's stock price, well, hit the lowest point in 9 years yesterday, reaching a new 52-week low of $7.58 a share. The previous low point was $7.43 a share back in April of 2003. On the day, the stock price was down 3.1% from Thursday's close. And that's pretty much all I've got on stocks. I'm not exactly an expert by any means. Let's go ahead and get back to the phones. We've got Steve, I believe from Bristol, chiming in. Steve, welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly.
How's it going, Braun?
The one, the only Steve from Bristol. What's going on?
You know what I was doing last night? A friend of mine brought over an old computer. He has an AOL deal. Mm-hmm. So he put me back to the old matches I'd either forgotten about or I hadn't seen. So what's the first match I see? I see the original Undertaker-Shawn Michaels match in '98 when they're both in shape and they didn't have injuries. I said, my God, this would be a pretty good match. I watched that, and I watched Steamboat and Savage, and then he got these bonus deals. I never knew that the Road Warriors took on the Steiners in a Nitro match, But there was a subplot. I didn't know the Steiners beat up the Nasty Boys. They were supposed to take on the Road Warriors, and they just blew the ring apart.
Yeah, those three teams had like a little triangle type thing going on. I think there was also the Faces of Fear in there. I'm trying to think of the time frame.
And then the last one I saw, because it was a bonus match. I never even knew this. You probably did. I never knew that Hogan and Bret the Hitman Hart formed a team, and they took on the Ultimate Warrior and Sting. The best part of that match was watching Sting and Bret the Hitman Hart, each trying to put their scorpion moves on each other. The counters were the best. I said, you don't see matches like this anymore. And it was like, you could see the Hitman, he was not going to be pinned by Sting. He was the champ then, and Hogan was supposed to protect him. And as usual, the smoke comes in, and the rest of the NWO guys come in and beat the crap out of the Ultimate Warrior and Sting. And all of a sudden, the smoke drops, and you see Sting with the baseball bat just taking every one of those guys out. That's the business.
Yeah, that I'm trying to think. That was I think late '98, and I'm trying to think back. The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. I mean, I know they've crossed paths quite a few times. I think their first, at least pay-per-view matchup that I can recall, or at least one of their bigger ones, was from Bad Blood '97.
Well, the other match that I didn't understand with Savage and Steamboat was Miss Elizabeth was the manager, but for some reason, George the Animal Steel was protecting Ricky Dragon Steamboat. I don't even know what that storyline was about, because I guess I forgot about stuff like that. And well, he kind of helped the Dragon win the match.
Well, I think a little bit of it was, I mean, and this went back to a year earlier where George the Animal Steel had a thing for Elizabeth, and obviously Savage, always the jealous type, took umbrage with it, and so they had a pretty lengthy feud that, of course, led to a match the year prior at WrestleMania 2 between Savage and George the Animal Steel.
Now, let me ask you a question. This might sound like the dumbest one you ever heard of.
Well, I don't know. Rap Boys asked quite a few. So.
All right, now WCW, that Bret Hart Hogan match against Sting and the Ultimate Warrior, I never seen so many times when somebody was getting shots in the groin in my life. Now, was that a WCW thing? When Vince took over the WWF, he never let that stuff happen. It seemed like Ted Turner and the WCW boys, that was just part of the match.
Just part of the, it's amazing how in a very short time frame, I mean, you go back, 5, 6, maybe 7 years in WCW, and throwing somebody over the top rope was a disqualification.
Yeah,
but
I think started this. I think this was the Horseman deal, because Ric Flair, whenever he was in trouble, he would hit. Oh
yeah, he'd have the trick knee, as Bobby the Brain Heenan used to call it.
And I guess because he got away with it, it was just considered part of the game. Because if you notice, like The Rock, none of those guys ever use groin shots. It's just like, I guess it's an over 40 move. That's the only thing I can figure.
Well, it'll be interesting to see now that The Rock is north of 40 if he comes back into the match. No, I'm not.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's all about the shortcuts now. It's a shame that the WWE's losing money, and it's a shame that I blame this on Vince. He was told 10 years ago, Undertaker and Triple H are getting old. You got to bring young guys up, and he didn't.
Well, I mean, he started to. He put a lot of faith in like Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, and they're both of them are dead.
Well, how do you think I felt watching Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth? I said, oh my God, these people have been dead a long time. But, I don't know what kind of new guys. I wish he would give. I don't know if you heard about this wrestler Teddy Hart. He's the last of the Hart family guys. He's been blackballed from both main companies. What's that all about?
Well, I know that. I know that. I guess he established himself as I guess kind of a reputation. Was it he or was it Reed Flair who had the reputation of being a partier? Or maybe it was both of them.
Sure.
But I mean, I know Reed Flair was definitely. But I'm Teddy Hart. I know. Gosh, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'll have to look that up for next week.
When he was coming up, he actually named the wrestlers he said he was going to take out when he got to the WWE. And he said there are certain imposters of my family that were going to be taken out right away.
Well, maybe that had something to do with it.
He said that there's only room for one Hart in the WWF. All the imitators have to be taken out. I don't know if that was... I think Vince got a bad idea about this guy. That he was not going to be able to control him.
Well, I mean, it's kind of obvious that Randy Orton has not exactly been someone who's been able to be controlled as him now getting suspended again.
I think that had something to do, when these guys are when I call them the push. Remember, what was it, 3 or was it 5 years ago? He was the legend killer, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden that just stopped. And it seemed like his career started going down real quick.
Yeah, I don't know if this is just some time off to, allow for some sort of a twist when he comes back. I mean, that's certainly a possibility. I mean, it seems like for some of these guys, having this absence might be a nice shot in the arm when they do return. Just to kind of, I gave you the list earlier of all the people who are on the sidelines at the moment, either from suspensions, injuries, or otherwise. I mean, those are pretty significant names.
This storyline with Brock Lesnar, is this just a rehash of Steve Austin when he quit and walked away for 6 months and then came back and picked his WrestleMania opponent?
Well, the difference in this case is Austin legitimately left. That they said he took his ball and went home. They kept with the changeover to the WWE theme and told him to get the F of WWF out. Right. But in this case, Lesnar, in his contract, he's only signed to appear for a certain number of dates, and then once he's used up those dates, I guess he's on like a pay per appearance type thing. I don't know. I don't have all the language of the contract in front of me.
You can almost guarantee that he will go nose to nose with The Rock in the Royal Rumble when he shows up. The Rock will put his hand on him and say, "I've been waiting for you."
But yeah, the big deal though is that because of that, he only has it could be 20 dates throughout the year, if that. That's figure that's pay-per-views, that's Monday Night Raws.
You figure 2 of those dates got to be Survivor and the Royal Rumble. He has to show up and pick somebody.
Exactly. So
I don't know how many people
because of that, how many times has he already appeared? That's why they've got Paul Heyman in to be his legal representative. They've got ways to keep him involved but keep him off camera, and now it looks like things are kind of shifting, and we've got Big Show and Cena, which...
Well, that's okay. That's your warm-up for the bigger events coming down the road. I got to see Rock and Brock one more time. And after that, I don't know what this usually brings somebody from the outside in, but there's nobody out there. Unless he's really going to scrape the bucket and bring somebody that he hates in.
Well, I think they need to build from within. That's Vince McMahon. As far as bringing other people in, Vince is starting to be like Dan Snyder of the Washington Redskins. Just bringing in lots of free agents, and when you've got, you need to draft a little bit too. And there are all these guys that are ripe to be elevated. They just need that opportunity. Dolph Ziggler, Cody Rhodes. The Miz has been stale for a while.
Yeah, if you're running that company, who would you put all your money on for WrestleMania? What young guy can carry this company for a year? That's what you got to ask.
At this point, I'd go Ziggler just because he can make whoever. Give him a lengthy title run, and whoever's chasing him, have him just beat the living daylights out of Ziggler, but have Ziggler continue to win the match. But once that good guy finally overtakes Ziggler, it'll be a tremendous moment.
Yeah, because he put all his money in John Cena for 3 years, and he might be the reason the stock's going so far low.
Certainly a possibility. There are a number of factors. We can get into those over the course of another time. Thanks so much for the call, though, Steve. I've got maybe about 20 seconds.
Sorry.
No, not your fault. No, it's the time flies when the conversation's going great. Thanks so much for the call. There's some more awkward moments up on the Facebook page. I'll throw a couple on there myself. And, of course, I'll be back next week to preview Slammiversary and more news notes, everything else. Stay tuned. Bill Melody's next here on WBCB.
1490 WBCB, Levittown, Fairless Hills, Trenton.
IRN USA News, I'm Sean Scott Ferguson. Revolutionary groups in Egypt and the powerful Muslim Brotherhood are calling for a massive protest in Cairo's Tahrir Square. That's after former President Hosni Mubarak was sentenced to life in prison for failing to stop the killing of protesters during the uprising that forced him from power last year. The more than 1,200 firefighters who are battling the nation's largest wildfire in rugged mountains and canyons of southwestern New Mexico are racing to build lines to corral the massive blaze. The fire had charred more than 354 square miles by Saturday morning, and crews were bracing for more dry and windy conditions. The Syrian violence has spilled over into neighboring Lebanon, where a gun battle has killed 7 and wounded 22, according to security officials. Officials say pro- and anti-Syrian groups clashed in northern Lebanon starting last night, and the fighting intensified today. This is IRN USA News.